The year is 1942. The world is locked in a desperate struggle against the relentless expansion of Nazi Germany. While Allied forces clash with the Axis powers across Europe and North Africa, a different kind of battlefront emerges within the borders of the United States. Germany, under the iron fist of Adolf Hitler, turns its attention to the United States, a vast nation whose burgeoning economic force is supplying essential resources to the Allied war machine. Recognizing the limitations of a direct naval assault, Hitler's regime seeks to cripple the U.S. war effort from within, aiming to sow fear and chaos on American soil. Among the smoke and intrigue of German intelligence circles, a plan emerges, spearheaded by Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, the head of the Abwehr. Operation Pastorius, a sabotage scheme, is born. Its name, a nod to Francis Daniel Pastorius, founder of the first organized German community in America, acts as a twisted historical reference, a perversion of the long-standing ties between the two nations. The plan is audacious. German saboteurs, carefully selected for their knowledge of the United States, would infiltrate the country and launch devastating attacks on key infrastructure. Power plants, factories, transportation hubs, all were to be targeted. The objective was not merely destruction, but a psychological blow to shake the American public's sense of security and disrupt the flow of vital materials so desperately needed by the Allied forces overseas. Operation Pastorius aimed to strike at the industrial heart of America, hoping the ripple effects would extend across the Atlantic and weaken the Allies' grip on the war. Who were these guys? The men chosen to carry out Operation Pastorius were not hardened soldiers plucked directly from the front lines. Instead, they were 8 individuals with a unique advantage: familiarity with America. These saboteurs were all German nationals, but crucially, most had spent significant periods living within the United States. They understood its culture, its rhythms, its vernacular, qualities that would allow them to move undetected within their target nation. These were not simply loyal followers of the Nazi regime. They were meticulously selected operatives. Some were skilled technicians, others seasoned laborers, all hand-picked for their potential in sowing industrial chaos. Their names were George John Dasch, Ernst Peter Berger, Richard Kirin, Heinrich Harm Helmke, Edward John Curling, Werner Thiel, Hermann Otto Neubauer, and Herbert Hans Haupt. They underwent months of rigorous training at a secret facility near Brandenburg, Germany. Under the watchful eyes of Abwehr specialists, they honed their skills in explosives and became experts in the art of sabotage. They mastered the creation of delayed action bombs, incendiary devices, and the subtle methods of disrupting vital machinery. In addition to technical expertise, the saboteurs were meticulously prepared for life undercover in America. They were issued substantial funds, counterfeit American currency meticulously forged to deceive. Identity documents were fabricated, backgrounds crafted, and cover stories rehearsed. Along with their tools of destruction, each saboteur would carry enough explosives to wreak havoc upon their chosen targets. The saboteurs of Operation Pastorius were meticulously groomed for their mission. They were neither fanatical ideologues nor reluctant conscripts. They were weapons, carefully prepared and loaded, ready to be fired at the unsuspecting heart of the American war machine. The chosen targets reflected a shrewd understanding of America's industrial muscle. Power plants aimed to cripple manufacturing hubs. Aluminum factories, essential to aircraft production, were marked for destruction. Railway junctions and canals sought to choke the flow of raw materials and finished goods. Even the water supply of New York City was considered, in a chilling bid to sow widespread panic. Each attack was designed to create a chain reaction of delays, shortages, and a breakdown of public confidence. The aim was to force the American war machine to divert precious resources toward internal security and repairing damage rather than bolstering the fight abroad. The plan called for the saboteurs to infiltrate the United States in 2 separate teams. On the night of June 12, 1942, off the coast of Amagansett, Long Island, clad in civilian clothes, carrying suitcases packed with their deadly arsenal, 4 saboteurs, Dash, Berger, Kieran, and Henk emerged into the darkness. Their mission had officially begun. Days later, another U-boat deposited its own lethal cargo on a beach near Ponte Vedra, Florida. This team, led by Curling, also included Neubauer, Thiel, and Haupt. Now both cells were positioned within the United States, ready to act on their orders of sabotage. Operation Pastorius, a mission built on secrecy and meticulous planning, would ultimately crumble from within. The man destined to derail Hitler's plot was George John Dash. Appointed leader of the Long Island team, he was outwardly the picture of a loyal saboteur. However, buried beneath his facade of obedience was a growing seed of doubt. Dash, unlike some of his fellow operatives, was not a fervent Nazi idealist. His motivations were complex, a mix of misplaced loyalty to his birth nation, a desire for adventure, and perhaps even a sliver of conscience. As he and his team stepped onto American soil, a lingering sense of unease began to gnaw at him. The reality of his mission, and the potential devastation it could cause, stirred a conflict within him. His change of heart was not sudden. It was a gradual erosion of resolve, fueled by the memories of his past life in America. Dash decided he could no longer stomach the potential consequences of his actions. In a bold gamble, he resolved to betray Operation Pastorius and the regime he'd been prepared to serve. 2 days after landing, Dash boarded a train to New York City. His objectives were clear: contact the FBI, expose the entire sabotage plot, and bring his compatriots to justice. Dash, the would-be architect of destruction, walked into the FBI's headquarters, offering himself up and pulling the thread that would unravel the entire Nazi scheme. His betrayal was a death knell for Operation Pastorius, marking its beginning and its swift end. Dash's revelations ignited a firestorm of activity within the FBI. J. Edgar Hoover, the agency's director, immediately recognized the gravity of the threat. With a network of Nazi saboteurs potentially loose within the nation's borders, time was of the essence. A nationwide manhunt of unprecedented scope was unleashed. Agents scoured coastlines, scrutinized train stations, and flooded the streets of cities. Leveraging Dash's information, the FBI meticulously tracked down the remaining saboteurs one by one. The meticulously planned infiltration proved no match for the determined response of American authorities. Within mere weeks, all 8 men were in custody. The trial that followed was swift and merciless. The saboteurs were charged with violations of the laws of war, rather than civilian crimes. The pretense of civilian cover stories evaporated in the face of overwhelming evidence. With their plans laid bare and their guilt undeniable, the verdict was a foregone conclusion. 6 of the 8 would face the ultimate punishment: execution by electric chair. Their deaths were swift and unceremonious, carried out on August 8, 1942 in Washington, D.C. Of the 2 who escaped the death penalty, Dash, the architect of the plot's demise, was ironically spared due to his betrayal. His defection earned him a 30-year prison sentence. Ernst Berger, who also cooperated with authorities, received a sentence of life imprisonment. Operation Pastorius eventually failed horribly, never achieving the broad sabotage that Hitler had envisioned. The trial of the saboteurs resulted in the controversial exemption Curran ruling, which was later used to legitimize the use of military courts against suspected terrorists. Intrigued by this story? Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more spy stories that deserve to be told. And if you have any suggestions for future videos, drop them in the comments. See you in the next video.